Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to film part 2 of the Suzuki LT160. Part 2 is going to consist of taking a look at the front brakes and doing some adjustment. These specific brakes on this one probably are okay, but as we can see, that's not stopping the wheels. If you guys are enjoying the channel, please like and subscribe, as it helps the channel out and allows us to do more videos and future content. Thank you. Factory coil and spark plug. The ohm readout for this will be in the manual, which if you don't have the manual, there's a download link in the first video in the description. Okay, here we've got your factory fuse. It is a 15 amp, if I can get it to focus right. One of these is an extra, it's just a spare. This is going to be your factory solenoid. This plug goes to your rectifier. We're not going to focus, are we? That part goes to the stator. That wire coming off there goes to the battery to charge it, and that wire goes to the ground. See if we can get a little bit closer for this. These wires right here, which are going to be red, orange, black with yellow, black with white, and gray. And we are not going to get a focus at all. There we go. I'll go to the ignition switch. Come up here and see. See if I can't get up underneath there. No. That would help. Negative. This is your rectifier. Right there's the plug that I just showed you that goes back to the stator. And these are going to be the brake cables that we're interested in today. You'll follow that all the way up, and both of them are going to come here. These are drum brakes on the front, and there is some minor adjustment up at the handlebar. As I showed you earlier, if we put that all the way down, neither one of these tires is, well, that one's got a little stop to it. This one needs some serious adjustment. So we're going to take the wheels off and go through it and see what the brake pads look like. Basically all I've done to get this front end up is lock that back brake, taking the jack, and then putting the jack stand on that back swing arm right there so that it's stable. It's not going anywhere. So go over the. So basically, what's happening is that, depending on what we find, these aren't getting pulled back far enough. This one's just on the cusp of touching the drums when they're pulled back. As you can see, that's what happens when I hit the brake. So what we're going to do is, after we take a look and see what the actual brakes look like, and go through the components in there, make sure everything's good to go, we're going to adjust these outside pieces so that they make better contact. And I'll walk you through that here in just a minute. Guys, you need to take off the little rubber boot here that we have. And then you're going to find a castle nut underneath that. This is your little rubber boot. And there's your castle nut. Remarkably, this bike is in amazing shape for the age. This thing must have been parked for a long, long time. Get some needle nose. Go ahead and take out your pen. And put the castle nut on it. Castle nut. That castle nut shouldn't be too tight. And that's going to be a 22 millimeter. That on. Here we're going to see obviously quite a bit of dirt. These aren't that bad. I've seen way, way worse. So we'll get that cleaned out. Inside here is where your first set of bearings is going to be. So we have one pad up here, one pad down here. These springs on each side are going to hold it in. And when we turn, when you hit the brake, this is going to rotate this way and push these out. So sometimes as the brake pads wear down, which these aren't terrible, but they're not great. I'm definitely going to leave these for now. The adjustment's going to come in when you basically are pulling this further, so that when you hit that brake, that turns more and pushes the brake pads out, hitting the outside of the drum, stopping the wheel. This side is actually pretty good. I'm not going to mess with it. I am going to throw some bearing grease on there and kind of clean everything up a little bit. But that's pretty much the brakes in a nutshell. The way that these are adjusted is there are, let's see if I can get that lighting a little better. If you can see it or not. I don't know why we're having such a hard time focusing today with the camera. There are teeth on this part right here, and what's going to happen is we're going to release the tension from this spring, and then we're going to move this a couple of notches the other way. We're going to do it on the other side actually, but let me get this put back together, get everything greased. Here's another grease fitting. So while you got everything stripped down, you might as well hit it. So you can just use brake cleaner. Go to Walmart. It's not really $3 or $4. And then you just basically kind of want to clean everything out real good. You put a drip pan down. Same with drum. You can actually take a rag and wipe this out if you want, but this one's really not that bad at all. And the bearings were not loose either. Check inside here, down in here for your bearings to see if there's any kind of slack or wobble, and in this case there really is none. If down the line I need to change these bearings out, I will definitely do a tutorial on that, but for now we're going to leave them. You can see I just flexed those springs a little bit just to make sure that they weren't rusted out. They are not. Really want to stay away from putting any kind of lubricant on it or in there. It'll be bad enough as it is with if any water gets in here. Suzuki's actually done a pretty good job at sealing these. I'm surprised that they did such a good job on an older bike. There's a rubber bushing that goes all the way around outside of this, and it fits pretty tightly on the inside of here. With this being as old as it is, I'm surprised that this isn't worn out. That would tell me that this bike got garage stored for quite some time. Well, there's a line right here that points at that dot. And so what we want to do is, that's our point of reference. And so to make the adjustment that we need to, we're going to have to bring that dot further over here. So another massive tip is to make sure that you always put your 10mm away. Otherwise you're going to spend a half an hour looking for one of two sockets that I have laying around, which is absolutely ridiculous. And looks like I lucked out this time because partially lucked out. Your mileage may vary. I just got really lucky with that. I'm trying to see how much tension is going to be on this spring, because I know it's going to be quite a bit, and that's pretty dangerous if you're not careful. I'm assuming that this is why this side probably hasn't been fixed correctly. Okay, so yesterday, right after the rain, I got stuck with this drum, and I did just about everything I could because I don't have a puller to get it off, including prying at an ungodly pressure, and got nowhere with it. And as I was putting everything away, I decided to put the tire back on, which I'm going to do in a minute, and give it a couple taps with the mallet on the inside, and it popped right off. So you want to make sure your castle nut is off and that the race is out, and then you just want to snug these four up. Got lucky with the other side, it just slid out. I don't know what the deal is with this one. I do know that there was a lot of buildup and there's a lot of rust behind this caliper, which is common. Basically just want to snug up your bolts. will come right off. And you can go back through and loosen it up later and take those out. Now, what we've got is this back plug back here was not in. So I'm assuming that we took on a lot of water here. And with water and steel, we know comes rust. And so what's happened is that this is seized up around the bearing in here. Now we do have some slack in this bearing in here, so I'm gonna have to pull that out and take a look at it. But right now we're just gonna concentrate on the brakes and then getting this straightened back out. In order for me to get this brake adjustment that we need, which is to get this guy further that way, which is going to tighten this up, we need to take the tension off the actual brake pads, and hopefully this spring doesn't break. You can just let that kind of sit there. Maybe we're gonna have to take both of them off. You want to go ahead and check and make sure that there's no rust. Which this one's not that bad. And I'm going to put a little bit of bearing lube on it. Just to keep it from seizing up down the line. So this is where that line is going to come in that I showed you earlier on the back and the dot that we had on here before. Essentially what we want to do is get that line and the dot lined up the way that it was, which is basically like that. Except for we want this to be rotated a little bit this time when we put that back on. And what that's going to do is it's going to put more outer tension on the pads, and that's where you're going to get your adjustment. Okay, you do want to make sure that you put your spring back on before you do this. You want to get everything lined up and then give it a little baby tap. And that should slide it back into place a little tiny bit. We're going to give it another tap. Now, I've gone pretty aggressive because I know that these brake pads are worn down quite a bit. So you really don't have to worry about the spring at this point, because we can pop that back into place here in a few seconds. And you can see where we lined that up this time. Maybe if we get this to focus. You can see that that line is right there, and there's our dot. The line is definitely further to the right this time, and you'll see where the basic alignment is. This piece is no longer flat right here. So I may have gone too aggressive, but we'll see. And now we're going to go ahead and put our brake pad back on. One end has a groove in it, and the other end is the flat part that actually is going to sit on that part right there. And I'm actually going to grind this down a little bit. I've got a lip. That's probably a big part of what's locking onto this brake pad here and locking this thing on. So the reason our hub or our drum was getting locked on is I've got a lip right here all the way around, and it's from corrosion and rust. So we're just going to knock that down a little bit with the small Dremel. You guys can see it or not, but the lip's pretty much gone. You just want to keep that on the edge. You don't want to go inside on the drum, otherwise you'll chew through your pads real quick. Okay, now that the brake drum's ground out a little bit, go ahead, put this last one back on. I did clean this out a little bit to make the drum fit a little bit better. That we can adjust through the handlebar adjustment. So go ahead and put everything back together. We'll get your race. I'm gonna clean them up a little bit. Big washer. This guy. Castle nut. Remember, you just want to snug it and then find where your hole in the custom nut goes. In this case, I'm going to go a little bit further and then back it off. That should leave. This guy to go in. So when I started making all the adjustments and checking everything, I went ahead and dialed these all the way in, as far in that way as they'll go. What this does is makes it so that when you get those tight, or when you get them snug, which they're not really snug yet, but now they are. As soon as I pull that brake in, now they are stopping. This side over here is a little bit loose as well. What that adjustment does is allows, when we pull these out now and make for our adjustment, you can adjust them here and in the cables down here as well if you need some additional distance, which we may not, but I'm gonna go ahead and adjust these out now, and you'll see that it tightens everything up nicely. So once you get those out, you'll see that everything's gonna tighten up. And then once we get everything to desired tightness, then we're gonna hold these still and tighten this all the way in, and that's what's gonna lock it in. So you can see the difference now is that it's actually gonna stop the wheels a little bit better this time. This one won't move at all. This one's not barely moving. So basically adjust these down a little bit more, adjust these down a little bit more, and then we should be good to go for the front brake adjustment. Let's see, now we've got some tightness. We're getting tight here, whereas before it went all the way in, it didn't do anything. So if we lock this all the way down now, I can't move this bottom wheel. So we're about where we want to be with the brake adjustment. Could be tightened up a little bit more, but I think it's going to be good for now. Maybe when I go through and put the bike all the way back together, I'll make one more adjustment on it. But that's how you basically adjust the front brakes on these. Next video, I will be pulling front end apart, basically getting all this rust off, and then going back through, cleaning it real good, and then we're going to spray down anything that's black and make it black again. There's a little trick to painting the exhaust black, getting this to come back and looking decent again, and then we'll keep going after that. That's gonna be it for this video. Please stay tuned for part 3 when we break down all that rust and then start the repainting process. This bike isn't worth taking and completely dumping down the frame and taking it and having it powder coated. The bike just there's not enough value there. So basically what I'm going to do is grind it down, get all that rust off the best that I can, and then rattle can it. So if you enjoyed the series, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.